Someone asks you how you're doing, and before you've even thought about it, the words are already out. I'm fine. You said it this morning to a coworker who didn't really want an answer. You said it last night to your mother on the phone, standing in your kitchen with your eyes stinging. You've probably said it today already to someone about something that is very much not fine. Here's the assumption almost everyone makes about that phrase: that it's harmless. A small social lubricant, like saying "you too" when a waiter tells you to enjoy your meal. 2 words that cost nothing and keep the day moving. That assumption is wrong. And once you see why, you'll start hearing "I'm fine" differently, both in other people's mouths and your own. Let's start with what "I'm fine" is supposed to do. On the surface, it's a social shortcut. You don't have time to unpack your actual emotional state with the barista, the coworker walking past your desk, the acquaintance at the grocery store. So you hand them a placeholder. Sociologist Arlie Hochschild, who spent her career studying how people manage emotion in public life, gave this a name: surface acting. You're not lying exactly. You're performing a version of yourself that keeps the interaction smooth, while the real version stays hidden underneath. That would be fine, harmless, exactly what the common assumption says, if surface acting only happened with strangers and small talk. But it doesn't stop there. That's where the myth starts to crack. Because the same phrase, the same practice, flatness in your voice, starts showing up in the conversations that actually matter. With your partner after a fight neither of you finished. With your closest friend who just asked if you're okay in a tone that meant it. With yourself at 11 at night staring at the ceiling, running through the day and still landing on "I'm fine" as the verdict, even though your chest feels tight and you can't say why. This is where psychology stops treating "I'm fine" as a polite shortcut and starts treating it as something closer to a symptom. Psychologist Susan David, who has spent years researching what she calls emotional agility, points to a pattern she sees constantly in her work: people who have gotten so used to bottling their emotional state that they've lost fluent access to it. Not because they don't feel things. Because the pathway between feeling something and naming it out loud has quietly atrophied from disuse. There's a term for the extreme end of this: alexithymia. Literally no words for emotion. Most people saying "I'm fine" on autopilot aren't at that extreme. But the mechanism is the same, just dialed down. The feeling is there. The vocabulary for it isn't loading fast enough to beat the reflex of "I'm fine" out of your mouth. So if it's not really about politeness, what is it about? This is where the myth fully gives way to what's actually happening. Picture the actual moment it happens. You're mid-conversation, and someone asks a version of "Are you okay?" Before you can answer honestly, your nervous system runs a much faster calculation underneath the words. Is this a safe place to say the real thing? Researchers who study stress physiology have shown that this kind of quick threat assessment happens through the body before conscious thought catches up. Cortisol, the stress hormone your adrenal glands release under pressure, rises the instant your brain flags a situation as risky, long before you've decided what to say out loud. If the answer to that fast, wordless calculation is no, not safe, not now, not with this person, "I'm fine" isn't a lie. It's a exit ramp your body built before your mind was even consulted. And for a lot of people, that exit ramp gets built early, and it gets built for good reason. Think about a kid who came home upset about something at school, and got a parent too stressed, too busy, or too overwhelmed themselves to actually hold that upset. Maybe the parent said "you're fine" back to them, meaning it kindly, meaning to reassure, but teaching something different underneath. Your hard feelings are an inconvenience here. So the kid learns to package their own feelings before anyone else has to. By adulthood, that packaging happens so fast it doesn't even feel like a choice anymore. Feels like the truth. This is the part the harmless white lie myth completely misses. Saying "I'm fine" over and over doesn't just hide your feelings from other people. It starts to hide them from you too. There's a name for what happens to a feeling that never gets spoken. It doesn't evaporate. Research on emotional suppression, including studies from psychologist James Gross at Stanford, has repeatedly found that pushing an emotion down rather than expressing it doesn't lower your body's stress response. It raises it, and keeps it elevated even after the conversation that triggered it has ended. Your face says fine. Your heart rate doesn't get the memo. That mismatch is expensive physiologically, and your body pays the bill even when nobody else can see the charge. So here's what "I'm fine" actually is, once you strip the myth away. It's not politeness. It's not even really a lie most of the time. It's a fast, protective, learned reflex, built to keep you safe in moments when honesty once felt too risky, too inconvenient, or too likely to be met with the wrong response. It made sense when it was built. The problem is that the reflex doesn't know the difference between a stranger at the checkout line and your partner asking a real question at midnight. It fires the same way for both. Modern life gives that reflex constant practice. Think about the last time a coworker asked, "How's everything going?" in a Slack message and you type, "Good, just busy," without even pausing, while the actual answer involved 3 deadlines and a knot in your stomach that had been there since Monday. Think about the group chat where everyone posts the highlight reel and nobody posts the version where they cried in the car before work. Every one of those small, low-stakes, "I'm fine"s adds another rep to the same muscle. And a muscle that gets exercised enough times doesn't stay confined to the situations it was built for. It starts firing everywhere, including the conversations where the truth actually mattered and someone was genuinely ready to hear it. That's the real cost hiding underneath the myth of harmlessness. It's not that any single "I'm fine" does damage. It's that the reflex generalizes. The workplace version of fine and the relationship version of fine get built out of the same wiring, and after enough repetitions, your nervous system stops distinguishing between the two. It just fires the shortcut every time regardless of who's asking or how much they actually want to know. There's also a quieter cost that's easy to miss. The people who love you start believing the fine. Not because they're careless, but because you've gotten convincing at it. A partner or a close friend can only respond to the signal you're actually sending. If the signal is calm and steady on the outside while something else entirely is happening underneath, the people around you end up calibrated to a version of you that isn't accurate. Over time, that gap is what makes people feel unknown even inside relationships where they are, on paper, deeply cared for. Modern life doesn't make this easier. Workplace surveys from the American Psychological Association have repeatedly found that a significant share of employees report hiding stress or dissatisfaction from managers and colleagues, often specifically because the culture around them treats fine as the only acceptable answer. That's not a personal failing. That's an entire environment quietly teaching the same reflex your childhood might have already started. Once you see it this way, the goal isn't to eliminate "I'm fine" completely. You'll still say it to the barista, and that's fine. That actually is the low-stakes situation it was built for. The goal is noticing the moments when the phrase comes out reflexively in front of someone who could actually hold the truth, and someone who's actually asking. That gap between the reflex and the choice is where things can start to shift. Susan David's research points to something simple here. Naming an emotion accurately, even privately, even just to yourself, measurably lowers the intensity of that emotion. Not fixing it, not solving it, just naming it correctly starts to loosen its grip. That's a small, doable thing. Not share everything with everyone. Just, the next time the reflex fires in front of someone safe, pause half a second longer than usual before the words come out. Ask yourself what's actually true underneath the fine. You don't have to say the real answer out loud every time. But knowing it just for yourself is where the pattern starts to loosen. If this pattern feels bigger than any one conversation, if the gap between what you say and what you feel has been open for a long time, that's worth bringing to a therapist, someone trained to help you find your way back to your own vocabulary for what you actually feel. Someone is going to ask you how you're doing today. And the words "I'm fine" are probably going to come out before you've even decided to say them. Maybe now, at least, you'll know what they're actually protecting. I'm not here to tell you that you owe anyone your real answer. I just think it's worth knowing when you're giving the automatic one. That's the whole idea behind this channel. Most of what looks like a flaw in how we handle ourselves was actually built to keep us safe once. This is Quiet Signals. If this one landed, tell me in the comments what you actually would have said if fine hadn't gotten there first. See you in the next one.